talking about called Visual Studio Live Share support. We really think this is a game changer in terms of enabling real-time collaborative development. VS Live Share enables you to not only work collaboratively on code, but even do so when you're debugging apps. In fact, have teams that are composed of multiple different parts of the Visual Studio family on multiple different options. This works across Windows, it works across Mac, and it works across Linux development machines.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a collaborative development and debugging session with Amanda, who's remotely located. So to do that, I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to click on Share. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a connection to my workspace on my machine that I can then share with Amanda. There's a link to it. I'll go back over to Slack, and I'm going to paste this in. And now Amanda and I can start to work together.
So what's awesome here is that I can just copy this link and go to my favorite code editing experience, Visual Studio, and go to join collaboration session. Now that's going to pick up what's automatically on the clipboard, and I just click join. And what's happening here is that my Visual Studio, which is personalized for my use so that I'm the most productive, is actually connecting remotely to Chris's workspace, which is hosted in VS Code. And so what you see here is that we have the Solution Explorer loaded with all of his files. I can expand WebUtil, for example, and look at some other files here. Or I can go back to app.js, which is, I think, where he's editing, and I can actually see that, yes, in fact, he is editing here. We see his cursor right there. There's Chris. So Chris, how can I help you today? We're probably on a voice chat at this point, so let me know, how can I help?
All right, so Amanda, this loop seems to be giving me a problem. Data.tweets comes in. I've got lots of tweets and sentiment data. But I want to get down here to the render method. The sentiment with level keeps coming back with a bunch of undefined objects. I have no idea what's going on. I was hoping maybe you could help me out.
So what's awesome is, obviously, as he's describing the problem to me, I'm actually seeing it be highlighted in my code editor. So I know exactly what he's talking about. But further, because this is actually based on a connection that has all of the files that his code depends on his machine, I can actually do things that are based on like semantic code navigation, for example. So I can go to peak definition, look up the get happiness level, and actually look at what's going on there. So I get the full kind of navigation experience that you would expect from Visual Studio with this experience. All right, Chris, I don't yet know what the problem is. Can you reproduce it for me?
You bet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to, say, line 19. I'm going to set a breakpoint. Then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to share a debugging session with Amanda. And like we saw before, what will happen is Node will spin up on my machine. She doesn't have Node installed on her machine. I'll go back over to the browser. We'll refresh the page. And then what will happen is we'll hit the breakpoint on my machine and on her machine.
So what's awesome about this is as Chris hits the breakpoint on his machine, Visual Studio is actually also hitting the breakpoint. It's the same exact debug breakpoint. Awesome? Awesome, yeah. Further, Visual Studio actually goes into a full debug mode. So I have all of the debug windows that you would expect from Visual Studio when you were in a normal debug session. I have the locals window. I can kind of expand things, look at data, et cetera, look at the call stack. But further, because we're actually sharing the debug cursor, I can even advance the debug cursor by just going step over a couple of times, and we can step over it. And I can see here that S is actually 0. OK, Chris, at this point, I know what the problem is. It's actually a rookie JavaScript mistake. So why don't you stop debugging, and I'll let you know how you can never run into this ever again.
All right, let's fix that rookie mistake. I'll stop the debugger.
All right, I'm going to go to the top of the file, and I'm just going to take advantage of one of the features that's my favorite aspect of the fact that TypeScript is powering the JavaScript language service, which is that I can actually use the TypeScript compiler as a JavaScript linter. So I can go ahead and just write tscheck here. And even though we're in a JavaScript file, it's actually using the TypeScript compiler to do type checking on my JavaScript. And so what we see now is that I actually have a a type checking error, which is that the property sentiment doesn't exist on the type string. So what happens here is that you're going over an array, and if you use the let-in expression over an array, then you go over all of the enumerable properties of the array object. It's kind of a weird JavaScript idiosyncrasy. But if you use let of, so if I just go ahead and edit this and change that to let of, then you'll actually see that the squiggle should go away and everything should be fixed up.
And you can sign up to join the VS Live Share preview starting today. And we really can't wait to get your feedback.